Hi, everyone. Welcome to the UCLAX Film Fest 2022. I'm Ashley Griggs, a member of the Entertainment Studies staff at UCLA Extension, and I am thrilled to moderate today's Filmmaker panel. We have an exciting lineup of filmmakers whose work is being showcased in this year's film festival. We hope that you've had an opportunity to watch all of their films and on the festival website. If you haven't yet, we'll drop a link to the festival website in the chat. Our conversation will take place over the next hour or so. Please drop any questions you may have in the chat box throughout the discussion, and we'll address those questions towards the end of the panel. Now, I'd like to introduce our panelists, and one reminder to mute yourself while you're not speaking, just to make sure we maintain the audio of the panel today. So I'd love to introduce our panelists. From the film Dandelions, director and producer, Kate Cobb.
Hello.
Hi. From the studio assistant, writer, director, and producer, Glenn Kimball.
Hi, everyone.
From Keft, writer and director, Dolores and Bilgen.
Hi, everyone.
From Oh No, a Computer, writer, director, and producer, Gordon Shea. And from Ghosted, producer, Tina Riccio.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. To begin, I'd love to have each of you introduce yourself, your role in the film, and share a short line or two about the plot of your film. Tina, let's start with you.
Hi, as she said, I'm Tina. I'm the producer for Ghosted. Ghosted is a film about two young millennial girls who try to summon via Ouija board their cat back from the dead, but mysteriously summon somebody else pretty special instead.
Thanks, Tina. Glenn, let's go to you.
Sure. So I'm the writer, director, and co-producer of The Studio Assistant, which is a short comedy about authorship. It's about a famous painter who's using her assistant to do her work, and the assistant seeks revenge.
Fantastic. Gordon, how about you? Gordon, I think you're muted.
I'm the producer, director, and co-writer of Oh No, a Computer, which is one of our series of films about older people faced with modern technology and the problems that it creates.
Fantastic. Dilara, how about you?
So I'm the writer, director, editor, and executive producer of Kept. And it's about Nicole, who is a high school running coach. And she takes her pregnant student, Sam, to a clinic to learn about her options in the aftermath of a sexual assault.
Thank you. And Kate, let's go to you.
Hi, I am the director and an actor as well, and a producer for Dandelions. Dandelions is about a guy who returns home to his hometown after writing this series of successful novels based on the people in the town. And when he comes back, he kind of has to pay a little penance to the people whose stories he stole.
Excellent. And as we can hear, there's a wide spectrum of styles and stories represented on this panel. Could each of you tell us a little bit about the starting point of your film and how the initial idea came about? Let's go in the opposite direction. So Kate, how about you? What was the initial idea starting point for your film?
Yeah, so it's written by Kevin Bigley, who is an actor in the short as well, and also my husband. It was basically, it kind of came to be based on his hometown, which is the small kind of cow town close to Sacramento in California. And we had been visiting this town over and over again, and he had written a series of short stories, and I had done basically a photography project to go along with those short stories based in his hometown. So just taking photographs of this place, and visually it's so stunning and weird, and it feels like Oklahoma. And there was something about that kind of world that we wanted to show. And so basically it kind of started with that visual aspect of the place he is from and the kind of people that are there. And it just kind of bloomed from there. And we kind of went back and forth about how we wanted to tell that story and who it wanted to be. And so it's like, I would say it's like semi-autobiographical. Yeah, mostly it was based on a location.
I love that fusion of mediums coming together to sort of spark the initial idea of the film. Delara, you also have a drama in the festival. What was the initial spark for you?
So I am originally from Istanbul, Turkey, and I was loosely inspired by some stories I heard back when I was a high schooler in Istanbul, in terms of the sexual assault aspect. And I just wanted to write a story that promotes women's choices and decisions on their bodies and their future. I think it's important to tell. And I mean, I made this film 4 years ago, and funnily enough, I think it became even more relevant now. And when I made it back 4 years ago, and yeah, so yeah, I've always been interested in telling stories about the human nature and like strong characters being in difficult positions. So that was the main point of the film.
Yeah, it's interesting how the life cycle of even showcasing your short can mean that it comes out at different times and can have different impacts. And I agree that it's particularly relevant now. Tina, let's skip to you. What was the impetus for your creative idea?
Yeah, so Ghosted is a comedy short, which spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, they summon the ghost of Jesus Christ. They bring Jesus Christ back, and our lovely writer Lindsay Kelly basically was just trying to write something to keep her mind flowing, and she's been really interested in Ouija boards and some of the more witchy kind of religions and viewpoints on life, and so she asked herself, you know, if I could summon anyone, who would it be? Or like, who is the most wild person I could summon? And she landed on Jesus Christ. So she wrote this whole comedy about essentially trying to bring back these girls' dead cat, and in the process, bringing back Jesus Christ. And I think it's a really great story and kind of a commentary on where we are in life, that we're not ready for the next coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see, going to another comedy, Gordon, what was the initial idea for your film?
Well, when I switched careers 3 years ago, I was looking for something else to do. And it's difficult for somebody my age to find something active and fun. So I went into acting, where I've done quite well, but you know, acting gives a few and far in between. So I started to write anything that intrigued me, that was fun, or that was interesting, and created a series of 40 or 50 films, 11 of which we produced, on the older, more middle-aged generation. And this is Onoe Computer's one of them. We created a TV series called Helen and Harold, which hopefully we produce soon, about an older couple that's always bickering, the situations they get in. We created a slasher film about an older couple going for a walk one night in the woods, don't do it. And we created another really interesting film, touching a little bit on Tina. This was a conversation between God and the devil, and with 4 different endings. So we've now gone into features, and again featuring slightly older people and the situations they get into. And we have a website called Go Elderberries, and our company is called Grant Rivers Productions, and our films are geared towards middle-aged and older viewers.
Thanks, Gordon. That's excellent. It sounds like you are staying very busy and productive. Glenn, your film sort of strikes a balance between drama and comedy. What was the initial
Sure.
for that?
Yeah, that's definitely true. So a few years ago, I was in New York and I had a friend who was fresh out of art school, and she was the assistant to not a painter, but a very big contemporary artist. And she used to come over my apartment and complain every day that her ideas were getting stolen for no credit. And I moved to LA in 2019, and I did a lot of work for a show that's now on Disney, and for my hero, who's the showrunner. And I wasn't able to get a job on the show, but they certainly took everything that I did for the show, which led me to enroll in UCLA, actually. And the advice I was given for doing a thesis project was, it's great to do a short that makes people say, oh, I would love to see a feature. And when my friend told me this story in New York, I'd written a feature, but I never really went out with it. So I thought, okay, now I've lived that kind of experience of being an assistant and having your work taken. This would be a great time to rewrite it as a short film. So that's what I did.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and as you can tell, there are so many different tones and styles of films that we're discussing here today. I'd love to talk about voice, which I think has already sort of been touched on a little bit, but voice is so important when doing any kind of creative project, but obviously in a short film, conveying a clear voice is so critical, where you have such a limited amount of time to set an atmosphere or share a theme. How did you and your teams go about ensuring that a specific voice came through with your film? Glenn, let's start with you.
Sure. So I think everything starts from the script, and if you can fix it in the script, then it's worth fixing in the script. So we really stuck to the page, and I made sure that our actors knew that I expected everybody to be off book and to be using the words that I'd written. Even in the audition process, I let them know that, so that if they were a lot of comedy actors like to improv. But so I had to make sure that they knew they were going to stick to the page. We also we created a deck for the short film before we went into production. Nancy Sanchez, who's one of the associate producers on the project, we worked together with Katrina and myself to put together like a visual deck so that everybody could be on the same page on the visual front. And tonally, I sent like a lot of reference films that I like that aren't necessarily in the art world or whatever, but just this sort of dialogue I like, which is Billy Wilder. So, yeah.
Great. And yes, I would say with all of your films in particular that the voice comes through the visuals. So the lighting, the coloring, wardrobe, all of it is really communicated very clearly and effectively. Tina, let's go to you. How did you ensure that voice was maintained throughout your project?
Yeah, well, I think for Ghosted specifically, we were really trying to lead you down a certain path and then kind of surprise the viewer a couple times throughout the film. And so for us, similar, we had a script, everyone needed to know the script, but we would do a couple shots to script and then let the creativity flow and let the actors do whatever felt right at the time. And we really leaned on what felt right to us in the edit room to create the story that guided you a certain direction, surprised you, took you another direction, and then, oh, surprise, it's a comedy. Towards the end, that was really the goal. And we used editing, we used a lot of sound design and music and color correction to really build you through it. Like, we really wanted it to feel like a scary short film from the start, and then surprise, we've got this comedy aspect. And so it was really for us bringing the whole piece together in post-production to make it what it was.
Excellent, thank you. And I loved the opening candles in the film. It was such a great image. Gordon, how about you? What did you do to ensure that the tone of the film and the voice of your film was coming through?
Well, as you know, Oh No, a Computer is made with hand puppets. And the reason is we started to make it in 2019, and all of a sudden all the actors disappeared because of COVID. So we decided to do hand puppets. And there's 3 stages in that. One is to create the sets, which is the most difficult. The second is to create the puppets. And the third is since puppets are not yet speaking, to give them a voice. So once we had the film with our puppets enunciating the different words, we then got some really talented voiceover actors and inserted their voice and used them for the puppets. And the tone is always lighthearted. All of my films are lighthearted, except maybe the Slasher in the Woods film. And I have another film, but maybe not be lighthearted, where a daughter brings a toy to her mother and the toy takes over the house. And that's a little scary. But all my films are lighthearted and have that buoyant, cheerful voice to them. And by the way, I loved Tina's film. Thank you very much. It was so clever.
Thanks, Gordon. Kate, let's go to you. Your film was very poetic and obviously drawing on the work of an author, so it had that sort of poetic feel. How did you ensure that your voice and the voice of your collaborators were coming through?
So yeah, I mean, my husband and I have worked together a lot and have done a lot of projects together. And I think it was important from a directing standpoint to honor the script that he wrote, but to also interpret it through my own voice and through my own gaze and my own tone. So I really tried to visually capture the thing that he wrote on the page. And the way that I was able to do that, I mean, for me, honestly, I'm such a terrible, terrible artist. So doing storyboards is just so painful for my team to look at. So I actually went through and did basically a visual storyboard with stills for every shot. So I went through, I don't know if anybody here uses Shot Deck, but it's a really great website to use. But I basically did it the hard way, which is I just looked through all of the movies that were my comps for this film. And I took stills from the parts that I wanted that I think really encapsulated like all of the angles that I wanted and the feeling that I wanted, and then went through and made another deck with all of the colors and the tones and the costumes. So I basically went through and created packages for each department that kind of helped everybody kind of meet the same goal. And I think that, and then getting on the same page with my DP was essential, because once you're speaking the same language, you can kind of trust each other to make decisions on the fly.
Absolutely, that's great. And Shot Deck for all of the folks listening out there. To Laura, how about you? How did you ensure that the voice that you wanted to share was coming through your film?
So this was actually my thesis film for UCLA extension. And I mean, I made it for no money at all. And so it actually helped to be a student because I wanted to use real locations as much as possible. So I actually got to shoot at a real clinic, and it definitely helped to say that, oh, I'm a student at UCLA Extension while I was doing the film. So like they were willing to let me shoot the film there, a part of the film at least. And yeah, in the script as well, I just wanted to make sure that the dialogue was natural. And while we were rehearsing, I wanted to collaborate as much as possible, and especially with the main two characters, Carly, who plays Sam, and Laura, who plays Nicole. I wanted to make sure that they thought the characters were, speaking naturally, and that they were fine with whatever the characters were saying. And in case they wanted to like change any specific words or something, we definitely talked about those during rehearsals, which is like, I'm saying rehearsals, but like 10 minutes before we started shooting, basically. Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that, collaborate as much as I can, just learn from all the people that were willing to help me. And yeah, and during the editing, I edited the film as well. So just wanted to, yeah, it was basically just my baby, my first short film. So yeah, I guess you can see, you can hear my voice through it, but yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, congratulations to all of you on your films, because I think they each are really singular and showcase a very specific and engaging tone. What was the most challenging part of the filmmaking process? Obviously, filmmaking is fun and collaborative, but it's not always easy. So Delara, to start with you, what was the hardest part of the process?
The hardest part, that's a good question. I don't know, just writing the script and rewriting, just making sure that it's good to go. That was challenging. And also just shooting. We shot this film in 2 days, so just making sure that we got the locations locked and ready to go, and just like, because it was like, it had to be like clockwork. We didn't have a lot of time, and we certainly didn't have a lot of money, so that was the most challenging part, I'd say.
2 long days, I'm sure. Yeah. Kate, how about you? What was the most difficult part?
I would say, so for the short, we used our own money. It was $7,000 of our own money that we put into it. The script itself was about 19 pages. We shot it in 3 days. We flew everybody out to Northern California. We shot it on location. And I would say the most difficult part for me specifically was balancing directing while also being my own UPM and my own production accountant and my own costume designer and my own, set deck and all of that. It basically, like, for me, it was, I planned so much. I'm like one of those like obsessive pre-production people. So I planned so much that the actual executing of the film kind of came together really kind of smoothly. What is it that Hitchcock always said, that once he was done doing the storyboards and shot listing, he was like done with the movie, because he was like, I already did it, the movie's made, I just have to do the boring stuff where I like make the movie. I don't think that's boring, but doing all of that, I think, helped to make that part of it smooth. So then from there, it was staying creative, staying in the moment and engaged as a director, but then also being my own AD and keeping myself on schedule and making sure that we were calling forward to our next location, and, a lot of juggling. So I would say that the hardest part for me was maintaining that kind of really myopic focus as a director, while also dealing with all of the other tornadoes that go into filmmaking.
Yeah, you have to wear so many hats, and I think particularly with smaller budgets, you're doing so many roles. It's a lot to juggle, a lot to learn. And I'll jump in really quick with a reminder to our audience that we will be doing a Q&A at the end of this. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure to ask them as we get towards the end of the meeting today. Going back to difficulties during the filmmaking process. So Glenn, how about you? What was challenging during the process?
Sure. So I remember in my post-production class, they talked about the time, quality, and money triangle. You can only have two. So this is a student film, so we obviously don't have money, and we're looking for quality. But the hard part is time is money when you're working with paid actors. And so shooting 16 pages in 2 days was a lot. And we had a lot of dialogue. So a lot of different people speaking, a lot of notes to be given from my end. So making those live cuts kind of on the fly was personally like a challenge, but also gutting to me as like the writer of like, oh no, I have to kill more darlings here. But it's also like, that's the fun part, I think, about being on set as a director, is you're like the ultimate problem solver, and you can fix things as they come up. But yeah, the time crunch is real.
Yeah, 2 days is so quick, and I'm sure you spend so much time planning, and those 2 days go like that. Gordon, how about you? What was the most challenging part of the filmmaking process?
Well, it wasn't budget. We made our film for $2,500 because we did not have to pay the puppets. And they were the leads. But our biggest challenge was how to get it seen, where to show it. And we created a channel called a site called Go Elderberries, a website. And then we promoted this on Facebook. And we were getting, since we weren't charging anything, we were getting 25,000 to 50,000 views for each film. And in fact, one of them, Helen and Harold, we just created a TV series, which we are looking around to get a producer. And that is also a situation of an older couple who get lost to go in the woods. They go into a house surrounded by people with guns. The guy in the house says, "I want you to deliver this bread to somebody," and they think it's drugs. And they take the bread to the person who's supposed to get it. And he opens the bag, and it's a loaf of bread. But we did that for half an hour. So it's how to get it seen, how to get it viewed, and ultimately it's how to make a little money from it. And we're still working on making the money from it.
Hopefully in the future, it will lead to something. It sounds like you have a lot of projects in the works. So this film, I'm sure, will open doors for future ones.
One of them might work.
Yeah. Tina, how about you? What was the most challenging part of making Ghosted?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a mix of things that have already been talked about. For us, it was shooting during the pandemic. It was actually my second film that we had shot during the pandemic, but the first one, we were very fortunate. We found a space that was very large and had lots of big windows, so we could keep the windows open and give people space. We had more room for people. I can't remember, and I'm sorry, I should have prepared this before the panel, but the house we shot at for Ghosted is very small. It's my fiance's parents' house, which is like a very small Tudor, which was great because we didn't have to pay for it, but very, very small, very, very, very understaffed and crewed. I mean, we were doing everything. I was playing UPM, I was playing first AD, creative producer, I was managing COVID protocols. We're taking breaks every 45 minutes for 5 to 10 minutes out in the fresh air because it was hot and we were squished, and our writer was doing scripty. I mean, it was just, we were very, very, very in close quarters and doing a lot of different jobs, which was fantastic, and it worked great, and we did that because it was more COVID safe, but it was definitely a challenge along the way. It was 2 very long days.
Yeah, COVID protocol and safety adds a whole nother layer of challenge to the creative process. So congratulations on getting through that and having a really successful film. Okay, on the opposite end, what was the most exciting part about the filmmaking process? So from idea to taking it out on the festival circuit, what was the most exciting part of the process for you? Glenn, let's start with you.
Sure. Working with actors. So because I had done the directing certificate during the pandemic, it was really hard to, get more than one actor at a time for all of my projects in the directing workshops. So for the thesis project, I said I want to work with as many actors as I can, which ended up being 14. And I just had a blast working with all of them. David Martin Porras gave us the advice that audition is the first rehearsal. And I just took that and ran with all 14 of the actors, and it was really, really fun to hear my words spoken aloud by such talented people.
Fantastic. Yeah, and it was great to see in the sort of gallery scene at the end, all of those different pieces with the different actors coming together to create that environment. It was really fantastic. Kate, how about you? What was the most exciting part of the filmmaking process for you?
I would say the first shot. I would say probably that. I mean, I had done a few shorts here and there, but this was kind of my biggest project to date. And having all of those people together and then just beginning, it felt so exciting, and I was so pumped on the project. You know, since then we used it as a basically it was made as a proof of concept for a feature, and we actually shot the feature. We used it and shot the feature this summer. We just wrapped last month. So that was probably the exciting part for me, was being able to have something that I could use to move forward. And so our little short kind of like doing its job and doing what we kind of made it for was just super exciting. And it's always really great to, once people watch it, this thing that you've been buried in for months, it's always this great feeling to hear what people think of it and how people are connecting to it. And at the festival circuit, that is the best part, is hearing like how people related to it themselves, and how it can be from two completely different points of view, still kind of seeing themselves in the film. And I think that is such an exciting feeling.
And congratulations on finishing the feature. That's a huge deal. That's really exciting.
Thanks.
Dilara, how about you? What was the most exciting part of the filmmaking process?
I mean, I think I like different aspects of each, each thing. I really, really enjoyed writing it, especially when I was like finished. And, it's just like such a nice feeling to know that now it's good to shoot, it's ready to go. And like Glenn mentioned, working with actors was definitely a highlight. And I really, really enjoyed working with, like, I only had 4 actors, but just working with them and spending time with them, just like picking their brains about the script, it was really enjoyable. And like Catherine mentioned, the festival, just when people actually see your film and you get to hear what they thought about your film, and just, meeting new people, meeting new amazing filmmakers who get to showcase their own films. That's really rewarding, and it feels really, it just feels amazing. And yeah, but I am definitely, I like a lot of different things. I enjoyed editing it, at least the first part of it. After a while, once you see it like a thousandth time, it can get a bit old, but still I enjoy like the whole thing about it. Yeah, I love it.
Fantastic. And editing is just another form of writing too, right? So it all sort of goes hand in hand. Tina, how about you? What was the most exciting part of the process?
Yeah, for me, this was my first film that was really, really comedy focused, and it was shooting it and editing it, because we were laughing and having a blast the whole time. And when you're creating something as a writer or in pre-production, you worry, right? Like, are these really going to sell through? Are people going to get these jokes? And then when you're shooting them and you're with a bunch of creative people and we're all laughing as we go, or having to reshoot because someone giggled in the background, that's when it really starts to come to life in your heart and in your soul, at least for me as a producer. And so shooting it was so fun. Getting into the edit room and making those little decisions to make things even funnier and punch a little bit harder was just a dream come true. It was so fun and funny, and yeah, and then getting to share it and be with all these people. It's amazing to see everyone else's work and get to collaborate or speak with others, be inspired by others. I think that's so important too. So
Absolutely. And Gordon, what was the most exciting part for you?
Well, I think it's the I think it's the step from going from concept to the written page. I always wonder where these ideas come from. All of a sudden, an idea flashes through my mind, and hopefully, it's an idea that hasn't been made into a film 5 previous times. And to put it on the page is so rewarding to actually see it happen, and that's where I feel the most fulfilled. Producing is fun. I actually went also to UCLA Business School, so I have some background in how to get things done and how not to get things done. And the different steps in producing are challenging, but easily solvable after you've run a business. And not as exciting as going from the idea to seeing it in a script. That is so fulfilling.
Great, great. One more question from me, and then we'll go to a couple audience questions. So with every creative project, you're undoubtedly going to learn something about your craft or about collaborating with others. What's something that you learned while working on the film that you might carry forward with you, whether in your filmmaking career or in life? Let's see, Gordon, let's start with you.
Well, I think what I learned is that you can make a film with puppets for 1/3 what it cost you live actors. And that was really important. That we made some other puppet films, one of which we're making into a TV series. And we're thinking about actually introducing each one of the reels in the TV series with a short puppet show. And you have a lot of flexibility. I mean, you know, if you don't like the puppet's hair, hey, give me the wig, and we got a new character. And that's what I found that I did not expect.
I love that. I love that. Great lessons for creativity. Glenn, how about you? What was something that you learned during the process?
Sure. So it was more of something I put in action for my advanced filmmaking workshop. We learned from Fernando Scarpa to like compartmentalize our brains into, like, I say it differently than him, but picture, performance, and producer. And you really need to like wear one hat at a time. And so with this project, I really made an effort and learned it's worth telling yourself you're wearing a different hat at every moment. What hat am I wearing at this moment? And so that's something I'm going to do with every project going forward, is before I make any decision, am I concerned about the picture? Am I concerned about how the actors are performing? Or is this a production business related situation? So
That sounds like an excellent lesson. Yeah, making sure you're focused on the right things. Tina, how about you? What's something that you learned during your process?
Yeah, I had some production experience prior to doing narrative production, which is pretty recent for me. And I learned in different ways the importance of structure and flexibility. I think those come very much hand in hand for producers. It's very important to build that structure to understand your you know, the things that you need to work around, the structure of your timing, the structure of your budget, these sorts of things. And then you get on set and you have to learn how to be flexible and how to run with the punches and roll with it as you go. And it was really my first time taking a really strong lead as first AD while also taking a very strong lead as a creative producer. And they're two very different hats to wear. So similar to what he was saying, I just had to learn which hat I was wearing and to keep that structure of that first AD role in mind, while also being able to be flexible and bring the creativity to life and let that kind of lead the choices we make also.
Excellent, excellent. Dilara, how about you? What was something that you learned while making your film?
I mean, one of the most important things I feel like I've learned from this project is how important it is to be prepared before you start shooting, especially when you don't have the time and the budget and, you know, you just have to go. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everything was good to go and every decision was made beforehand, and also just being open to collaborating and just making sure that just listening to people who are just masters of their own thing, like from our actors or from our DP, just learning and making sure that we were working as a team. And even though this is like, I'm the writer, I'm directing it, I'm gonna edit it, I'm the executive producer, it's a collaborative process. It takes a village to make the film. So that was one of the most important things I've learned.
Absolutely. And then Kate, how about you? What was something that you learned on your process?
Of course, definitely preparation is everything. It is, I think that preparation allows you to be flexible in the moment and to have a backup plan that just kind of comes to your head. I would say that one thing I learned is that it can be super, the idea of a film, and especially going from a short to a feature, it can be completely overwhelming and total fraud complex. And it was really important for me. What I learned was it's only one shot at a time. So it's about like really just looking, what am I doing right in this moment, and kind of focusing in on that. And when you break it up like that, it feels way less intimidating to you just have to go day by day, which can be hard to do when you are wearing multiple hats. But I also think that one thing that I said to my team early on and kind of have kept that is the best idea in the room wins, which was like a Ron Howard thing. He said that, it doesn't matter whose idea it was. If the janitor wanders in and has a great idea, then that idea wins. And I think that like carrying that type of, a humble attitude. I started as an actor, and I was an actor for 20 years, and to be on many sets where an ego is the one driving the ship is really a toxic kind of way to make art, And so I think for me, it was the idea of like, my job is to corral and cultivate as a director everyone else's talent. And I think that that's important to kind of keep in mind and bring to a creative collaboration.
Yeah, I think that's really critical advice. No room for ego when a creative project should be the center of everyone's focus. Actually, I have a question specifically for you, Kate, but anyone, please feel free to jump in if you have insight to share. So we have an attendee from India who graduated from law school last month, is an entertainment lawyer, currently self-employed while looking for a new job. They say being self-employed and handling my own clients as a very new lawyer has been daunting, but also very enriching. I constantly find myself in situations where I have to play multiple roles, do the research, do the filings, do the paperwork, and I have to do it all solo right now. You mentioned that your film, for your film, you were engaged in multiple different roles to make that film happen. When you're in such a situation, how did you stop being scared of making mistakes and pushing forward confidently? And how did you push forward confidently every day? How did you stay confident in figuring it all out as you go along with different roles and doing new things all the time?
Yeah, I made a ton of mistakes. I just made them and then tried to pick up the pieces. I've faked it a lot of time when I was feeling super non-confident. And I tried to trust the work that I had done and trust my own ability and my own taste levels. But I would say that like, it is terrifying. I mean, it's very scary. And especially when it's super high stakes, or you have your own money on the line, or you have other people's money on the line, it can be terrifying. And so I think for me, just remembering, first of all, that it's just a movie. I say that a lot too. We're just making a movie. It's not a big deal. But then also really trusting your own ability is huge and can be really hard to do, especially when I always say as a female director, especially when we don't have all that many examples of us out there to really pull from. And so it can be hard to feel that you have the right to make these things, and like, why should I tell the story? And you ask yourself that a lot. And so yeah, I think it's really trusting that your own instincts will lead you and that you are capable.
Absolutely. And I know several of you, all of you really have worn the many hats during your projects. Is there anything else you'd want to chime in on with that question?
Well, as far as being scared, you have nothing to lose. I mean, either it's going to work or it's not going to work. And I always go at that, and very often you can just go ahead and nobody will stop you. If somebody stops you, that's weird. It usually doesn't happen. And if you go in with the attitude, I'm going to do this and I have nothing to lose, usually you'll succeed.
I'll jump on what Gordon's saying, and a friend of mine who's a surfer always says, if we don't go surfing, what are we going to talk about later? And it's kind of like that. Like, if you don't make your movie, like, what else are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? So, or if you don't do your law job, I used to be a lawyer too. If you're not filing your paperwork, you know, what are you going to talk about later? So you just got to do it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to, I think confidence comes with time, but that doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing and that you don't have the knowledge to make that step. So believe in yourself, make the step. The only way to learn is by making mistakes, at least for me. I've never been good at like taking advice and figuring it out from there. I've had to learn by making the mistake, seeing why it didn't work and redirecting from that. But that's what makes you better. That's what makes you stronger. So believe in yourself, move forward, be willing to learn along the way, and you'll be just fine.
Fantastic. So we have another question. First, congratulations to the filmmakers. They loved all of your films. For those of us starting now that you've completed your film, if you could go back in time to before you began, what would you tell yourself? Let's see, Delara, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I would say just take the time to make sure that you're working with the right people for your project, and not just, you know, jump and, you know, decide on whatever. And yeah, it's important to surround yourself with people who are going to be your supporters. They're going to encourage you, but they're also going to tell you what they think. If they see something that probably is not going to work, they're not afraid to give you your opinion. Just surround yourself with good people. And yeah, and another thing I would say is just learn more about the business aspect. Unfortunately, it's not just about the art. That's why they call it the movie business. Yeah, I think if I could go back and learn a bit more about the, you know, once you finish the film and what happens next, I certainly have to learn still now. I have to learn more about that part of the movie business. And yeah, that's definitely something that shouldn't be forgotten about.
That's great advice. Anyone else have any thoughts on that question? Something you would go back and tell yourself?
Sure. Write the best script you can and then cut it in half, because it's a privilege to be able to go slow. And when you're a student filmmaker, you have a lot of people that will be patient with you. So you might as well go as slow as you can and learn as much as you can from everybody who has more talent on their department than you. And if you don't have time, you're not going to be able to learn these things from the other departments. So cut your script in half.
I would add to, if you have the option between, you know, spending the extra money on the camera equipment or the lighting crew or whatever it is, I would definitely say do it. At the end of the day, you have to put together a reel, which will be clippets of different things you've created. And if the picture quality isn't there, sometimes people can't get what you want them to get out of it in that reel. So the higher quality the imagery is, I think the more you can use it and you push it forward for your work long term. So that I would definitely recommend that as well.
I've learned, I'm in the midst of creating a feature, and we filmed a 10-minute proof of concept film. And some of the shots that I took with my Sony 4K camera, I think are as good as the shots that the cinematographer took. So one thing I've learned is maybe you can do more of the roles yourself, particularly cinematography and lighting. And that was a lesson I didn't expect.
That's great. Kate, anything you want to add on that note?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I would say trust yourself, trust your instincts. And I would say that the surrounding yourself with the right people is super important. Always choose people based on the kind of their attitude as well as their skill. I think having a comfortable, safe environment is where all the best stuff happens, especially for actors. That's a huge, huge thing. So I think kind of building a team that is based on their ability, but also on their character is important.
Yeah, I think the director is very important. Even more important, I found, is the first AD, because when you're acting, he or she is the one who will make you feel comfortable and who greet you and make you feel as though you're wanted and they're happy to have you there. So the first AD is really important.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our final question, what are you all planning to work on next? Gordon, you've already mentioned a couple of your projects. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
We have two projects. One is a feature film called Second Chance at Love, Texas Love Story. And we filmed 10 minutes of that. And we are looking for a producer or investor distributor. And that is a real live action romantic comedy. And it's lovely. It was written by one of the faculty, with one of the faculty at the UCLA Film School, Cody Smart. And I think it's a very virtuous film. And the second is we're continuing Helen and Harold, not the puppetry, live action. And we've written a 30-minute TV pilot that we're also shopping around. There's some interest. And that keeps my hands full right now. We have 3 other features that are fully written, that are ready to go. If anybody's interested, thank you.
Of course. And Cody Smart also teaches for UCLA Extension at the Writers Program. So Tina, how about you? What's next for you?
Thank you for asking. I am on a little bit of a hiatus. I'm in the middle of producing my own personal wedding at the moment, which takes up just as much time as the short film, if not more. So I'm taking a break. That said, my director and my writer from Ghosted are both working on a project right now that is in post-production about I'm going to call it a Roomba. I don't actually know what brand it is, but they've brought this Roomba to life, and it's a comedy drama about this Roomba's personal life journey. And I've seen little bits from shooting, and it's hilarious. So look out for that.
We'll definitely keep an eye out for it. That sounds great. Glenn, what's next on deck for you?
Sure. So I'm hoping to shoot another short this fall with a script that was initially written by another UCLA classmate. We're going to keep it to 5 minutes this time, so taking my own advice. And I'm just about done a kids' Christmas movie feature that I wrote, and hoping to go around town with that soon. Yeah.
Exciting. Good luck with that. Let's see, Delara, what about you? What's next for you?
I actually directed another short called Kept during the lockdown, and it's called Lissa, and it's a psychological drama / thriller about a young woman who is diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it's her self-acceptance story, and it's doing its festival circuit right now. And I'm also writing another short, kind of like genre bending drama with dark humor and some magical realism elements, and it's just kicking my butt at the moment.
Well, good luck with that. I know the writing process is hard, but you know, sending you lots of positive creative energy. And Kate, how about you? What's next for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I just finished we just wrapped on the 7th of August. So I'm in that, like, I'm in shock still. So kind of coming down from months and months of prep, and then we had our shoot was only 15 days. So we had a 15-day feature, which was like, chaos. But right now I'm focused fully on post. So I took my little break and my little hiatus myself, and then now it's getting all of the dailies to our assistant editor, who then serves them up for our editor, and then we'll kind of start in with the second half of the journey.
Fantastic. Well, good luck to all of you on all of your future projects. We're so thrilled to have had you here today. We'll wrap our discussion here. Thank you so much, Kate, Delara. I'm looking at two things at once. Gordon, Glenn, and Tina, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ashley.
It's been fantastic chatting with you, and we're so excited to have you as part of the festival this year. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. As a reminder, our series of live panels continues today, so please take a look at our schedule of events on the festival website. Join us for our film scoring panel at 11:30 a.m. this morning, where you will have the opportunity to meet the composers of The Studio Assistant, A Sense of Joy, and Found Family. Additionally, our executive industry panel will take place at 2 p.m. today, so don't miss that as well. Finally, our festival award ceremony will begin at 3:30 p.m., followed by a networking event at 4 p.m. We'll be raffling off a free course at the award ceremony, so you won't want to miss it. If you haven't yet, please don't forget to vote for our Audience Choice Award on the UCLAX Film Fest website. There should be a link in the chat. Also, please visit the Entertainment Studies website to learn about our scholarships and fall classes. Fall is currently open for enrollment, and you can find our catalog of classes in the chat. Again, thank you to everyone. This has been fantastic, and enjoy the rest of the festival. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.